There we go. Awesome. Well, is everyone ready?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yay. Well, welcome everyone to the NAMI New Hampshire office hours. My name is Brittany Porter and I'm the walk manager for NAMI Walks New Hampshire. I'm here today with Stacy Reset and she is going to talk to us a little bit about fundraising. So I had the pleasure of meeting Stacy as a supporter of NAMI New Hampshire, but as I've gotten to know her, I have learned that she is also an amazing fundraiser. Over the last 20 years, she and her team have raised over $3 million for the American Cancer Society. And in her own words, she recently shared, I'm a passionate person that wanted to do something to help my friend. And by the grace of God, over 2 decades later, my teams and I have raised over $3 million in the fight against cancer. God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. I try to stay focused on what I'm setting out to do and take the actions necessary to communicate and passionately persevere and not grow weary in the process. And it is a process. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brittany, for having me. Yeah, I love nothing more than to see passionate fundraisers be successful because we all get started for a reason that's really important to us. And anybody that's watching, I know, is watching with the intent to say, how can I do things to be more successful? So I hope that something we share today gives people the opportunity to feel really good about what they're doing because the leaders that they are, the courage that it takes to be the leaders that they are is something I really want to convey today as we're talking.
Awesome. Well, why don't we get started with how you got started in fundraising?
Well, back in 2000, my childhood friend, Victoria, got a breast cancer diagnosis. Victoria now is a survivor. And at the time, though, I was 3,000 miles away. And honestly, it was a helpless cry, what felt like a helpless cry to take some action to do this actionable step to start fundraising. And in doing so, I learned that by asking if people might want to donate to help fight cancer, that many people were interested. And it was it was important that I learned over time that people get so busy that I need to be persistent because people that donate year after year, usually they don't respond on like very, less than 25% of my regular donors respond on the first, second, or even third ask. And I do want to talk about that a little bit. And I would love to share as far as getting started with NAMI as well. I have my NAMI Army t-shirt on that my my journey with NAMI and mental health issues. I have a brother that's 61 that's lived with bipolar disorder. For since his teen years, so many people get involved. It's because usually their family member or loved one is challenged with mental health issues. But NAMI's family support has been great for me, but also my brother's been doing great for 4 years consistently now, and it's such a blessing. And from us talking that sometimes over the years, though, when I felt there was nothing effective I seemed to be able to do for my loved one, sometimes just an effort talking with other people in support group to do something, even we're indirectly helping our loved one by helping others and using the challenges of what we can't control to do something that we can and to be courageous enough to go out there and invite others to help be the change that could save lives through NAMI, which, honestly, as I talk about fundraising, I may be talking about the American Cancer Society, but the truth is the same, that both organizations, the end game is to save lives, and we have a very important role. And I do appreciate being given the opportunity to talk about it.
That's wonderful. And we're so glad you're here. So you have been at this for over 20 years. What are the biggest lessons you have learned?
Let's see. All right. Some of the biggest lessons, as I mentioned, that a small percent respond after even my first, second, and third ask, but thank goodness some do. So I'm able to celebrate that. But as I got to thinking about it for today, some things that I start to take for granted because I'm already aware. But when I talk to individuals that maybe haven't been at it as long as I have, but something that I noted for myself is that the the important lesson after understanding that is the follow-on lesson is that people do want to help, and donors, it mystifies me honestly, but it's the truth of it. Consistently donors, even when I'm on my seventh, eighth, ninth reminder, thank me for reminding them and say, oh, thank you for that reminder. I've been meaning to donate and it went by the wayside. And when we think about it, we all get very busy. I try to be attentive if somebody sends me that type of a message because of what I do. But the truth is, if we can remember, and this has been consistent, taught to me consistently, that individuals aren't respond don't not respond because they don't want to give. The majority of people do want to make a difference. And especially since NAMI as the website makes it easy, people can go online and donate, and any amount is helpful. And often the people that donate the smaller amounts are the most sacrificially donating, right? So sometimes I got to be bold with the people that can make a bigger difference and be bold enough to ask for bigger numbers. Like if I ask somebody, would you consider making $1,000 gift? If they can do 250 instead, usually they'll say it. They won't usually say, oh, like, in fact, they'll be flattered that you asked that maybe they could do that. So really, it's remembering that you guys are the leaders. And like in a relay race, right? Like there's got to be a leader, there's got to be an anchor person. And people are able to donate because you're leading. And people are so grateful for us to do that. Either they don't want to, or they just haven't gotten around to do it for whatever reason. But it, if you can remember and stay grounded that it took you courage to sign up to be the leader, and that you do want to be effective, but to remember that people really value that and what an important role it is. And I was also getting to think that remembering that I can't do everything, but I can do my part. And that was definitely meaningful.
That's awesome. So let's talk about challenges. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced?
Okay, one of the things that I thought about regarding challenges is resting and regrouping, because often that's something that needs to be done. But that having, I guess we talked about courage, right? But it's not only courage, but patience, determination, and to be persistent, because that is definitely a challenge, because mentally and emotionally, I feel like I'm being a pest. But a challenge is getting out of my own head, getting out of my own way, and realize that the only way to get to that end game of making a difference and helping save lives and helping people live better lives is if I am persistent. Because if I just sit and wait with one message or one ask, I'm just going to say very, very little activity will happen. I hope that many people that are watching or listening have great success, 100% response rate. That would be excellent. But and casting the net wide and not being afraid to cast the net wide. As I meet people, I put them on the list, and even if it's two months after the event, I put them on the list for next year, because I know I'll be back. And often people will ask me, wow, you ask the same people year after year? And I'm like, yes. Are we still trying to navigate the landscape of cancer fighting and mental health issues? Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's almost like mentioning to people, here I am. It's that time again. Individuals fighting either illness fight it every single day. We fundraise usually for a season or a short time. Every single day, the need is there. So for us to reach out and ask people to consider donating, I feel that if we can just remember, we are offering individuals that are sitting at home when we're out there walking, we're giving them the opportunity to participate from where they are.
That's awesome. Thank you. I think that is a great message. So once again, because you've been doing this for 20 years, and I know this is something many people face who either return to NAMI Walks New Hampshire or return to fundraising for an event, sometimes folks get burned out, and you've been doing this for so long. How do you either avoid or handle burnout?
One of the things, and I guess really that's the critical factor about the resting and regrouping, but I also got to thinking, focusing on and celebrating what I have accomplished instead of dwelling on what I have not. And often that is, you have to be so intentional about it, because it's easy to say, oh, I didn't hear from these people, but then really celebrating the people that we have had a response from and the difference that we're able to make. And so being kind to myself, that I can only do what I can do. But again, you kind of mixing that with that perseverance and persistency. Like I say to people sometimes when I create big goals, right, for myself. So definitely create a big goal. Well, it used to be when I created goals, of course, I wanted to make the goal. That's why we make them. But over the years, I've learned sometimes showing the stretch goal, even though maybe I might have lost some larger gifts and don't think I can do it. I'm the only one that really gets caught up on that. People love to try to help you reach your goals. So again, sometimes it's humbling myself to what we're accomplishing, because other people sitting at home are also, they can celebrate with us and happy to be part of it. But yes, remembering that the Stacy is doing her part. That's how my life coach helps put it, right? And then I can't do everything, but I can do my part, and then being committed to actually doing it. Oh, and power statements like this one. I don't know if you can see it. Failure is not an option. Have your power statements, right? Like I wrote this a couple years ago. I pulled it out the other day because I'm fundraising. Like what is it that you can keep communicating with yourself? Like I've talked about, faith is really central for me. So it's kind of taking that deep breath and saying, okay, Lord, help me use the right words and help people that want to make a difference be moved to make a difference, because I know that I'm not so great, but God is great and he's helping me accomplish this, because otherwise I might not have the energy to do it.
I'm glad you do. So you and I offline have talked a lot about our why, like how the why drives us in fundraising. And to folks out there, your why is your mission, why you are fundraising. So Stacy, how do you personally keep your why centered in your fundraising?
I wish that neither the cause in the fight against cancer or mental health issues were so prevalent, right? We'd like to put ourselves out of business. Imagine if we no longer needed to fundraise for either cause because everybody felt healthy in all ways. So the why is that knowing that differences are being made. And I mentioned that I originally got started after a friend's diagnosis, and I've watched my brother's mental health journey. But seeing the miracle in my brother, or before he was well 4 years ago, in other people through my support group with NAMI, was really meaningful to be able to say we are making a difference. And it's a juggling act, because we know that there's suffering happening and there's loss of life in both causes still happening. But it's realizing that change is possible and staying grounded on that we've seen that it's possible and how we can make it possible for somebody else tomorrow and with our next ask. And when people are sending out their messages, one of the things that I find, if I could encourage people, is don't be afraid to be vulnerable. So you're doing this for a reason. be as vulnerable as you want to share what your reason is, and to the level that you're comfortable. But don't be afraid to say, this feels really awkward. And I'm typing like this, right? Because usually it's a message that way, right? Like, it feels awkward reaching out and asking you if you want to donate, but I know the difference we can make. I have a loved one suffering. I've lost a loved one. And I see that change can happen. And I want to be part of that change, right? But it's okay even to tell the donor, hey, you know what? If I'm pestering you, then reply, because I haven't heard from you. So I'm assuming you're still thinking about donating. That's why you haven't replied and said no, thank you. Often I will put on there, if you want to be removed from this list or you can't donate, I will accept your encouragement and your prayers. No shame, no judgment. But like, put it out there. People not responding, like, hey, we were courageous enough to ask. We're asking our loved ones to have the decency to reply. And then again, not judging them for not replying, just assuming they're busy. Assuming that's what it is, then of course I would ask again, because of course I believe that they want to help.
That's amazing. Stacy, thank you so much for taking the time to come talk to us. I swear every time I talk to you, I get this like big jolt of energy, and I just want to just use all the tips you've provided me. So that's it for the questions I have, but I want to open it up to the other folks on this call. Do you have any questions for Stacy or for me?
I would love that.
Stacy, you are amazing. So I just want to say that you are just such a natural fundraiser. And this is like, I feel like this was a role you were like born to do. So you're amazing. So thank you for all you do for NAMI New Hampshire and for the American Cancer Society. It's, such good work. And if you had to give just what you gave so many amazing tips today, if you had to give people just one tip, what would it be? What's like your number one thing?
Try to put aside your fears about asking people to donate. And I believe most fundraisers have it. I even have them, even after all these years, but I have to put that aside and stay focused on the goal. Like, the failure is not an option thing. Like,
I love it.
And in your compliment, it makes me think of something important as well, is that there's all different types of people with personalities to be successful in fundraising. So I'm glad that you worded that like, okay, you might look at me and see that certain aspects come naturally, but I can assure you the fear is there too. But I also want to remind everybody that we don't have to act alike or look alike to be effective fundraisers, and that finding what works for them. And one of my favorite tips was so awesome, and I'm so glad I learned about it, was many years ago, I spoke for the Cancer Society at a leadership event, to team leaders, and of an event that I wasn't as involved in. And I had mentioned that it was okay to do big asks. And hey, if you ask for $10,000, I guess that's what I said in the speaking opportunity. And about a month later at the event, the staff came to me and said, look at this $10,000 check that just got turned in. You should go talk to the team leader that turned it in. And very, very unassuming individual, very unassuming. And apparently she heard what I said. And when her boss said, how much do you think I should donate? She said, how about $10,000? And the boss said, okay, and wrote the check. So you don't have to be extrovert like me to ask in a way that is comfortable for you. And I guess that's part of what I mean. Like, if you feel that this is really hard, it's okay to tell people this is really hard, but I'm overcoming hard for the difference that we can make, because together I believe we can make a difference. I'm asking if you want to participate. Please tell me no if you can't or don't want to, but please, I welcome you to be part of this family, the NAMI Army, or whatever your group is. because I know that we can make a difference. And for people to put their personal twist on it, something that it really does work for them and sits well with them.
No, thank you. That's such an important point. And I think that will help. I think that helps people who might be a little bit new to doing some of this really get a little more comfortable knowing that, there are all different types of ways to ask and all different types of personalities. So that's a great point. Thank you.
And they can use me in the speaking sometimes if we talk about somebody else, right? Like, so if somebody's trying to construct a message, hey, I went to a team leaders meeting and this other fundraiser told me that I should do this. So here, I'm trying it. What do you think? What's your response? Like, maybe if they like if it sounds like it came from another individual, maybe that will help give the courage to put the message into it. Because often I do that. Oh, I heard this. I wanted to share it with you. And maybe people that are having trouble finding their own words, maybe there's something that I said that they can say, hey, you know what? What do you think? Are you hearing the message? Because sometimes when we get a lot of crickets and no replies to our email messages, we think, oh, did it really send? Did I actually hit send? And so, and talk to each other. Initially, often team leaders are the greatest support for each other because people that are donating, maybe they don't understand just how passionate and obsessive we come about being successful, but other fundraisers can understand that. And there's so many levels where we're trying to get support to be better fundraisers, and we're trying to get support about our loved one's health journey. So they go hand in hand, but we be again kind and loving to ourselves through what we're able to do.
You said something amazing to me yesterday when you were talking about the fear of being a pest. You said, what I realize I'm not really being a pest. I'm giving people the opportunity to make a difference. And I really loved that. And I think that is just a great universal message about fundraising for any cause you're passionate about.
Right. So true. So true. And I guess that when you asked about the one thing, that's why I say we got to find a way to temporarily overcome the fear of that. And I will tell you, people then will be grateful that you did, and they will thank you for leading the charge and carrying that baton in the efforts. And say, awesome. Take the kudos, right? Like often we go, oh no, right? Like if somebody's celebrating you, by golly, celebrate with them, whatever it takes, hugs, noisemakers, like whatever it takes, or being quiet.
That's amazing. Any other questions for Stacy? I know we're almost out of time.
I have a question. First of all, I just want to say that, hi, Stacy. Is there anyone else? This is incredibly inspirational. And I think there are so many messages that you have put out in front of people that are really helpful to hear. And even folks that are seasoned fundraisers, we do get nervous. We do feel like pests. And so everything that you're saying really resonates with me. And it does get exhausting and it can lead to burnout. So I love the rest and regroup. I actually wrote it down, and that's going to be like a little mantra on my screen, rest and regroup. But as you were talking, I was thinking about folks that don't consider themselves fundraisers, people who maybe are just starting out and this isn't really how they consider themselves. They don't see themselves as fundraisers. And so one, seeing yourself as a fundraiser and getting past that fear, which I think is a huge first step. But then there's also this sort of logistical, like, where do I start? Who do I reach out to? What does this look like? Do you have any thoughts, like, as you first began, getting past the fear is one hump, but then there's this, I feel like what I hear from a lot of people is this overwhelm of, I don't even know where to start. And do you have any advice, thoughts for folks that are just, really, really at that very beginning stage? Maybe this might be their very first walk and peer fundraising event that they participated in.
Two thoughts I had, and one Brittany can probably speak to, because I remember in the first couple of years of walking, I felt like I was pestering the staff of the Cancer Society at the time, and they were like, "Bring it on!" And they were so welcoming. And I know Brittany will be welcoming to people's questions. How do I do this? How do I do, like? And remember that you're not expected to know all those answers. And NAMI staff, wants to be, and other fundraisers, right? That, other people, volunteers, they do want to help. So please don't be afraid to ask. And I'll let Brittany address that a little bit more. But in that vein, also, you help me think that in being candid and vulnerable with people, if it makes you feel better, saying, I don't see myself as a fundraiser. I see myself as somebody that can't something, right? To the effect, it's going to make me cry just thinking about it, right? Because now I'm thinking about NAMI. All right, tissues. I can't sit back and watch what's happening happen. So maybe you say, I don't come to you as a fundraiser. I come to you as a lifesaver, as a change maker. Let's think about what we're doing. And if you're able to contribute, boy, I hope you open your wallets and contribute generously. But really, we're trying to make a difference. If you can't contribute, maybe you can be a shoulder for somebody. Maybe you can, help direct somebody to the 988, or, 988, such a new opportunity, or whatever. Like, maybe just put it out there. Like, I don't want to be a fundraiser in this fight, but we have to do something. And I need your help. I can't do it alone.
That's true.
So beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Stacy. And thank you so much for pointing people towards me as a resource, because that is so true. If folks do have a question about starting a walk team or fundraising, I'm always more than happy to chat with people. You can either call me or email me at bporter@naminh.org, or we have these fantastic NAMI Walks New Hampshire office hours or a kickoff event. And even if you've never met me in person, I'm very friendly. Never be afraid to come up to me and ask me the questions. I'm here to help. Awesome. Well, Stacy, once again, a very heartfelt thank you for coming to this office hours. You inspire me as a fundraiser, and I feel very lucky to know you and for the opportunity to have gotten to know you. So thank you again, and you're just amazing. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Well, good luck, everyone. All of your leaders, anybody, if they're making any effort, they're amazing. And thank you to each of you. Who did I just meet that asked a question?
That is Melissa Wieters. She is our development associate.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Stacy, for everything you do and for your inspiration. It's very empowering.
Well, I'm going to end this recording. We don't have to go anywhere just yet, but I'm just going to, let's see.